Now going to hit record. Thank you again so much for taking some time out of your night to hang out with the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives and to learn about the amazing work that's happening across our membership in the realm of policy and advocacy work. A huge shout out to the folks who generously donated tonight to the Federation when they were registering. Just so all of you know, when you donate to these webinars, you make sure that we are able to provide things like the interpretation from Lenguas to make sure that we create spaces that are accessible to people who speak different languages. And we are really excited to be able to offer many of our webinars in both English and Spanish. So thank you again all just for lending us your time and your energy and your goodwill. So again, my name is Mo Manklang. I am the policy director at the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives. And tonight is a very special night. We are going to, you're going to hear a little bit from me. I will strive to keep it short to make way for the big highlight of tonight, which is hearing from our Worker Ownership State Advocacy Fellowship. So this is the first year that we have had this fellowship, and we have several speakers tonight that are going to be presenting the projects that they've worked on. You're going to hear a little bit from me in the beginning about the Federation's policy and advocacy organizing work, and you're also going to hear from one of our dear new board members about member organizing in the field. So with that, we'll have all of the speakers in turn, and then at the end we'll have time for questions and answers. So I encourage all of you to make use of the chat box, continue to share your name, your organization, where you're calling in from, any questions that you might have as they come up for the fellows or for anyone else that's speaking tonight, and we'll get to those at the end. So with that, let's get into it. So as many of you, I'm sure know, the Federation is a grassroots membership organization. We represent, I believe at this point, more than 350 member organizations and businesses across the United States. And we strive to have member leadership in many different ways, and to make sure that we are engaging with our members and listening to them and keeping the voice of our members central to all that we do. And one of the ways that we do that is through our Policy and Advocacy Council. So if you are a member of the Federation and you do not already attend these council meetings, I invite you to join. And if you are not a member, I invite you to join the Federation as a member. So the Policy and Advocacy Council meets the first and third Thursdays of the month. And we do everything from updates around the country about state, local, and federal activity that's happening in terms of policy and advocacy work. So that might be introducing legislative bills. It might be inviting your elected representatives to do tours. We talk about any of the challenges that are coming up for our members. And then we have deeper discussion times on the third Thursdays where we dig into the deep questions about like, what are we supporting, and how do we organize as a sector to expand worker ownership and also work in solidarity with other movements about the causes that we care about. So I invite all of you to join into those sessions. And if you are not a member, but you're really interested in this work, we now have a policy and advocacy email newsletter, which will go out regularly. Michael will share in the chat. There is there you can actually access the whole slide deck for this presentation, and you'll be able to click on the link to subscribe to our newsletter. So we actually we have a regular newsletter that goes out, and we newly have a newsletter that will be just about policy and advocacy work that will go out about quarterly, and then whenever occasions arise for us to organize our members. So that's a really exciting development, and it's a way that we can keep you updated, but also it's a really great opportunity for for legislators. If you know a staffer that's interested in worker ownership and you want them to stay up on what's going on in the field, you can invite them to join the newsletter list as well. So that is hot off the presses, and thank you for sharing the slides, Michael. Shout out to Michael, who is fearlessly keeping track of all of the different information that needs to go out to all of you. So thank you so much. So what is going on with the Federation? So one second, one of the things that we want to do is to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. What's the Federation up to? What do we have planned for the year? And how can you engage in the work that we're doing? Apologies, just dealing with a little technical glitch. So what's coming up this year for the Federation? We had a really big year last year. We saw policy and advocacy work ramping up at all different levels. What is delightfully become a really regular thing is having legislators come to the Federation to tap into the expertise and knowledge of our members, to understand how can we support worker ownership in bills that are coming out, in appropriating funds. While we're delighted to respond to those requests as they come in, we also want to make sure that we have our thumb on the pulse of what the challenges are for worker owners and what are the causes and issues that we care about. So the first big project that we have this year is we're working on a position paper. So that's going to be a short paper that outlines what are the main areas of interest and engagement that we are working on, that our members care about. So you may have seen recently we issued a statement in tandem with our Union Cooperatives Council that outlined support for the REI workers who are working towards a unionization vote, which I believe is happening next week. And in the past, we supported the Movement for Black Lives platform. We've issued statements in support of immigrant rights, or community organizing to buy the downtown Crenshaw Mall. From time to time, members come to us and they ask for the Federation support, and we want to know what should we be supporting so that we can be proactive. So if you're interested in, say, climate justice or racial and economic justice, I invite you to engage with us on this. So we're going to be hosting roundtables. You'll see a link for a survey in the chat in just a few moments. And that will be a survey just to get to know what topics do you think the Federation should be digging into as a part of its policy and advocacy work. We are going to be hosting roundtables throughout the year. So really between March and July, we are going to be hosting roundtables about different topics to solicit feedback from all of you. So look out for information about that. And then, as many of you know, it's a big election year. So as worker owners, we know that democracy is necessary to make sure our communities are properly supported. So this year, we have a goal of having at least 25 member organizations serve as voter registration hubs. So what does that mean? It's just distributing voter registration forms and information. We are working in tandem with organizations like the National Cooperative Business Association and the National Rural Electric Cooperative Association on the Co-op's Vote campaign. So you'll see that coming up. We want to make sure that everyone's registered to vote and that we as a cooperative movement are encouraging people to get involved, to vote, and to really understand the people that are candidates in their local elections. So you can learn more about that at vote.coop. And then thirdly, one thing that we're really excited about, and you'll actually see a really great example of this a little bit later tonight, is we want you to invite your representatives to get in the doors of your cooperatives. We want legislators to see worker co-ops up close. And this summer, we'll be working with members to contact their legislators to do cooperative tours on location, to just get to know you and see what's up behind those businesses. So if you are interested in having your legislator visit, reach out to us at policy@usworker.coop. So I know that that's a lot, but we have a very exciting year planned, and there's so many different kinds of ways to get engaged. So I encourage you to stay tuned. So that is enough from me. We have many different initiatives that are happening at the federal, state, and local level. And if you're tuned into the Federation's newsletters, you'll get updates on all of those. But right now, what I want to do is actually introduce our board member, Denise Hernandez, to talk about her organization, Cooperative Home Care Associates, which recently attended a rally for home care workers. And it's just a great example of our members getting involved, particularly within their industry, to organize and make sure that our businesses have the resources that they need. So Denise, I will invite you to share. Oh.
Okay, thank you, Mo. Hi, everyone. It's really an honor to be here and talk about this rally. We've been working for the last year and a half to talk to the legislators to pass a bill called Fair Pay for Home Care. What that bill would do is increase wages. Currently, right now, throughout the New York State area, we have workers earning $13 an hour, up to $15 an hour. And it's just not enough anymore. What we're advocating for is for the home care wages to go up to 150% of the minimum wage, which would mean that they would earn $22.50. So we've been doing a lot of work for the past year and a half, talking to different legislators and getting them signed to co-sponsor the Fair Pay for Home Care Act bill. And this past Monday, on February 14th, Valentine's Day, we actually, 1199 hosted a rally, and many of us went. I think there was over 250 workers, people from the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, and you see, I love the pictures. They did such a nice job with the slide, but you see all the workers sitting there, and all the time there was a busload of workers that would come from a certain borough. We would all like, hey, we would all celebrate us all being there together. And at one point we actually marched to the Capitol building and we formed a heart because they wanted to send a message to the legislators to have a heart and have this bill pass into the state budget. In January, we learned that the governor had approved only a one-time bonus, and the one-time bonus is not enough. We're facing, right now, cooperative home care is facing a shortage of workers. It's hard to get people to do this job. It's a hard job. And before we used to train like 600 workers in a year, and now we're training much less than that, and the pandemic has made it even more difficult. And of course, the ones that are getting impacted are the most vulnerable, the people that need the care at home. They don't want to go to a nursing home. They want to live independently. They want to live with dignity in their homes. And that's being challenged right now. And we actually believe that this bill will also be an opportunity to create more jobs, build the economy, and have people reduce like the reliance on the public assistance that people actually get right now, and lift thousands of people out of the poverty. So we had, you see in the picture too, we had a little heart cut up, and all the time the legislators would pass by, we would stop them, have our workers talk to them, ask them if they're supporting the bill, encouraging them to support the bill, and then trying to get a commitment from the legislators. And it was really nice because, we had some other like employers in the home care sector also participate. And of course, Cooperative was in the house. So there's a lot of momentum with fair pay for home care. And we're hoping that, there's going to be a victory and this will be included in this year's budget. Thank you, everyone. Mo?
Thank you so much, Denise. I wonder, is there anything that we can do to support the work that you all are doing, or to promote the bill that you're...
Tweet these pictures, put the word out, all the time. I'm gonna start we were kind of bad at CHDA, we're a little old school, so we're trying to get into the tweeting and like the Facebook and the posting. So all of that is a little bit new to us. So if you can tweet, post, I think that's the best way to kind of send the message, and so everyone's kind of connected and knows what's going on. Mm-hmm.
That's great. We can make sure to share information about how to support the bill in social media in our follow-up email. And I just want to give you all props. I think when I got a little choked up because this picture of the big heart, it was actually a aerial video, and I think just the people power that you all brought to Albany was amazing, and it's really great to see. And like not just like your cooperative, right? There's a whole coalition of people working together, and that's what we're striving for at the Federation, is to not just worker cooperatives. Of course, we support worker cooperatives, but also to really make sure that we're meeting the needs of workers in whatever industry they're in. So
definitely. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I love seeing all this chat to support Denise and CHCA and home care workers across the country. One thing that I am excited to share is that Representative Jamal Bowman, who is representative from New York, is really interested in supporting the care economy. He actually put forth a whole platform called Care for All, and is interested in worker co-ops, and has reached out to us to help put together a bill about home care cooperatives. So that's in the works right now. Stay tuned. And if you're interested in getting involved in that effort, email me at policy@usworker.coop, and we can loop you in.
We actually have like an event with Mr. Bowman tomorrow at Co-op City at 12 o'clock to continue on the fair pay for home care. So we're actually going to be in Co-op City tomorrow with him.
Oh, amazing. I love that. Having champions as in legislature is really, really important. So I encourage all of you, if you don't know your electeds, you get to know them. The Federation is here to help connect you with your people. So if you have not had your senators, whether it's like congressional or whether it's at the state level, if you have not had them come in the doors of your co-op, or they don't know anything yet about your business, let us know. We can help to coordinate that. So thank you again so much, Denise. We're so excited to have you as a member, especially excited to have you as a board member, board director, and thank you so much for jumping in. Awesome, cool. All right, so next up is the big show for tonight. We're so excited. I'm personally so excited to share with you this amazing group of people. When I started at the Federation, I was tasked to have policy and advocacy work be a small portion of my job. And over the years, I have been really blessed to have that work grow and grow and grow. And one area that we really saw as important was making sure that worker owners themselves have the resources that they need in order to engage meaningfully in policy and advocacy work. And we know, I know if you're in this room, you probably know that being a worker owner, owning a business, it's usually more than a 40-hour-a-week job, right? So, we know that there are challenges and barriers to people being engaged in this work, and we want to make it easy. So what we decided to do was to have a worker ownership state advocacy fellowship to help worker owners flex their muscles, to connect with other worker owners across the country, and to help the Federation solidify plans to build infrastructure for state advocacy work. So this is a pilot program. This is our first year. And we had such a great group of fellows this year. We're proud to say that the fellowship has been a great success. We've seen these people build relationships and learn about lobbying and advocacy, and dig deep into the projects that will help build access and opportunity for worker ownership. So this you're seeing on the screen right now, our illustrious group, they dug into work over the last 6 months. So from September 2021 to tonight, February 2022, you're looking at the end of the road for the fellowship. And I will be sad to not be in communication with these people every day, but I'm so excited to have them share with you the great work that they have been doing over the last several months. So with that, I am going to turn it over to the fellows to share what they have been working on. First up, we have Rowan Thomas from IME Mentors Cooperative, and Indira Guzman from Community Language Cooperative. Indira and Rowan, do you want to unmute and take it away?
Yes, thank you so much. So thank you so much for that introduction, Mo. I'm very excited to share about our experience. So again, like Mo said, my name is Rowan. I'm from the IME Mentors Cooperative. I use they and them pronouns. We were going to share a fun fact about ourselves. So I am the child of immigrants who came from India in the 80s. So that's my fun fact. And I'll pass it over to my my teammate, Indira.
Gracias, Rowan. I will be speaking in Spanish, so I want to make sure that everyone is on the English channel. Make sure that you select the interpretation in English. Mi nombre es Indira Guzman.
My name is Indira Guzman, and I am a community language co-op member. And something fun about me that I wanted to share with you is I'm a mother of 2 kids. One daughter who's 18 years, and she's an adult, and one boy of 13 years. And I have a lot of fun with my kids, and that's what I wanted to share with y'all. And we're going to keep going.
Yeah, and we can go to the next slide. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Yo puedo continuar. Okay.
I could continue. One of our objectives and priorities that was very important working in this process was that we saw that it was a priority to reach out to non-English speaking, low income, from BIPOC or LGBTQ plus community members. A lot of times we felt like the information that we had from organizations that develop cooperatives is not accessible to these groups specifically. And I am working with a lot of different cooperatives who are ready to form cooperatives, but they don't have access of how to form it or what it is. And so this is one of the priorities that we have, is give this information to develop cooperatives for these groups. And then I'll give Rowan this word.
Perfect. And thank you for advancing the slide as well. So this process has been, we wanted to share a little bit of reflections on how this process has been for us and our experiences. It's definitely been a huge learning process for us. We've been able to learn a lot about cooperative policy work and how to get things moving at a local and a state level, and just learn from a lot of people active in cooperative work in the nonprofit and government sectors in Colorado. We also learned a lot in our All Fellows meetings. That was something that we talked about together a lot. We learned just an amazing amount about the projects and what cooperatives in other states are doing, and sort of the successes they've had, the failures they've had. Just learning about their experiences was also really valuable for us. For our project, we were able to take a deeper dive into what's happening behind the scenes.
I shadowed
Oh,
Indira, got
we
to
can
learn
go
about the
back,
co-op,
sorry.
and immediately
one
was
sec.
I
No worries.
shadowed Indira, got to learn about the co-op, and immediately was brought onto the team.
There you go.
Perfect. We can go back one more slide to slide 12. I'm almost done with that one. Thanks, Mo. Awesome. So we were able to take a deeper dive into what's happening behind the scenes in the Colorado cooperative ecosystem. And that we found out that it looks a lot different from what we experienced when we were building our cooperatives and what we thought about it. So it was really cool to kind of get a peek behind the curtain. So although this was a really intense and high energy process, the fellowship, it took a lot of dedication. We're really happy with the final video that we're creating. We're going to be sharing it with SBDCs, and we're really excited about all the connections we made just along the way in the process. And I'll hand it back to my co-star, Indira.
Gracias, Rowan.
Thank you, Rowan. And so we made a video. We made a video for the development of here in Colorado, and there's 15 states of centers of development in the state. And we did it to help that these development centers could understand what is more important, that it is very important to not exclude, and continue to exclude these marginalized communities within cooperatives, that they also have access and information to access information. And we also would like to have information. I think that Rowan is going to present the last two.
Yes, thank you so much, Indira.
Sí,
So
muchísimas gracias,
we
Indira.
were able to
Entonces
feature
nosotros
a lot
podíamos
of current
presentar
Colorado cooperative owners,
a
and they were able to talk a
diferentes
lot in the videos about
dueños
the
de
positive
Colorado,
impacts that
de cuáles son
having
sus
and building
impactos
their own
positivos
cooperatives
de
had
la
had.
cooperación.
And it was really, really great because they were able to share a lot of their own personal experiences and just speak more about their experience building cooperatives. And we wanted to make this video, it's going to serve, we feel like it can serve as a useful tool for SBDCs to sort of bridge the gap and make the support and resources they provide more accessible to a lot of the marginalized communities we've named. And we also think that it can be useful for cooperative development, nonprofits and organizations, existing cooperatives, and also just to community members in general, to help bring more business owners who are from marginalized backgrounds into creating their own cooperatives or engaging with the Colorado cooperative ecosystem. Yeah, and I'll let Indira introduce our next slide.
Próximo. Thank you. This video that we're going to play is not the video that we made, but we thought that it would be a good video to show what is happening in the cooperatives. And I want to go to the next slide and play the video. It's about a minute of the community language co-op and what impact it has in the groups.
And immediately was brought onto the team. I understood the importance of bilingualism and service to the community in Spanish. My parents are immigrants. I am a first generation in the United States, and the cooperative really presented an opportunity to grow professionally in a service that I felt passionate about, that I really thought was going to be beneficial to my community. We're able to all pitch in. We're all able to invest into this company, whether it's with time or with monetary investments. My passion for language justice really takes my work to another level. Not only am I out there in the community just interpreting, but I really want to make sure that folks are able to understand the history of language oppression, that folks are able to understand the best practices and how to use that to create an inclusive and equitable space. We live in a society and in a world that is changing rapidly, and we see that now with COVID-19. At the co-op, we've already had to make a lot of changes to accommodate these external factors that we have to consider, and we're going to continue to do so. A cooperative model can break those systemic barriers. A cooperative model can allow folks to come in to develop their skills and to turn them into that shining star that they're really meant to be. There are many more benefits for many more people with this model.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We can go to the next slide. So that sort of gives you a taste of what is happening on the ground in Colorado regarding cooperatives. And this organization, Community Language Cooperative, where my partner Indira is from, was one of the 3 cooperatives in Colorado that was featured in this video. We had multiple members from those 3 different cooperatives. So Community Language Cooperative, IME Mentors Cooperative, my co-op, and then as well as Mujeres Emprendedoras. And it was just a really wonderful day of filming. We were able to make a lot of connections, not only with community organizations who supported us. There was a nonprofit a Center for Community Wealth Building that really helped us put this project together, but also just across the co-ops, we were able to make a lot of connections and really spend some important and meaningful space in community, and just share stories about the importance and like meaningfulness of our co-op experience individually and collectively. And we were there all day. We were there from 10 to 3. And we also were able to share lunch together. And it was, we had it catered by one of our co-ops, Mujeres Emprendedoras. So it was really wonderful to not only create a tool for our co-op advocacy work, but also just engage and contribute back to our co-op community as well in the process. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Indira?
No, creo que
No, I think that you said everything. That was a big part of our work. And we don't have the video that's ready right now. And I think that when it is ready, we will love to share it with everyone. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Rowan and Indira. What a beautiful video. I will admit I definitely teared up a little bit listening to that story. And what a great excerpt from what I know is going to be probably a series of great videos at the end of the day. You know, one of the great experiences from this fellowship was seeing how people developed their projects and ideas, and everybody went in different directions and everybody had dug into some really like compelling projects. So huge props to our first presenters, Rowan and Indira, and keep an eye out at usworker.coop for the rest of the videos. We'll make sure to post all the projects. We're going to have a recap of the whole fellowship, and we'll also share out all the different pieces of the projects that have gone out so far. So thank you so much. Next up, we have Liz Hogg, who's from New York, from the New York Music Cooperative. Liz bravely forged her own path and was able to really engage in the New York ecosystem. So Liz, take it away.
Sorry, thank you, Mo. I'm Liz Hogg, I'm from Brooklyn, and like Mo said, I kind of forged my own path because I was the only New York fellow for this. So I kind of did 2 different projects when I initially was trying to figure out what like legislation was kind of percolating and what I could glob onto. What I ended up doing was working on the Bailey Bill. The Bailey Bill is a bill that allows for, sorry, one second. It increases, sorry, one second, let me get my Bailey Bill slide. Okay, so the Bailey Bill allows many different businesses to access loans and grants, but the current wording of it is that worker co-ops cannot be eligible for that type of funding because they're not incorporated. So one of the things Nick Knock is trying to do is add an amendment to the bill that creates tax exemptions for sales of businesses as a co-op, and to allow co-ops to incorporate so they can apply for that funding. And some of the things we did were securing a meeting with Assemblymember Zinnerman's office in February, reaching out to Gallagher's office, and planning a statewide co-op listening tour, building a relationship with the legislative director in Bailey's office, and like I said, meeting with Zinnerman to explain the amendments and trying to get that bill amended. The other project I was working on was the Direct Finance Subgroup Committee, which is one of the committees of Nick Knock. Mo, are you sharing my slides?
I have your.
Okay, yeah, I'm not up to that yet. Okay, we're good. So I'm just going to talk about the two projects first and then wrap up with the with that slide. So the Direct Finance Subgroup, we basically met throughout December and January, and recently started meeting again to figure out basically like a database of grants or loans for co-ops, because co-ops can't apply for many loans, mainly because most loans require every owner to kind of take responsibility for the loan. So traditional businesses, one person basically owns the business, maybe two people. But with co-ops, if it's a co-op of 7 people, all 7 have to be signed on to pay back that loan, which just isn't really feasible for most, working people. So we are trying to figure out what actually is available for co-ops and what we can apply for. And we came up with a list of resources, including Empire State Development, some grants by the Brooklyn Arts Council, as well as this list here. The NYC Small Business Continuity Loan Fund and Shared Capital Cooperative Loan Funds, as well as the Cooperative Fund of New England and the Paycheck Protection Program, which was doable for many co-ops. And what we're trying to work on now is basically getting, it kind of relates to the public banking movement. Public banks could give more loans to co-ops, but traditional banks are not, basically, to put it simply. So trying to get more public banks and local banks would help with that. So let me go on to the one page. There was a question. Yes, to the best of my knowledge, co-ops cannot incorporate in the state of New York. That's what I've found. Please correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but yes, that's what I've discovered. Sorry, I realize I'm taking over time, so I'll just do this wrap up kind of quickly here. So like Mo mentioned, I'm part of the New York Music Co-op. We're basically a music lessons cooperative. And the reason it's cool is because teachers take away almost all, about 85% of their earnings, which for anyone who's ever worked at a music school, that's unheard of. It's usually much, much less. And teachers are able to set their own rates. So it's basically a win-win for teachers. They get students through the co-op's advertising as best as we can, and they can set their own rates and have a voice in overall co-op decisions, how we advertise, what types of concerts or productions we put on. And worker co-ops allow workers to benefit from the value they create. Yeah, I think this is just a general, sheet on why co-ops are good, which I think all the co-ops here kind of have that. Then if you go to page 2, Mo. Okay, so page 2 has some of the people I contacted and some of the resources that helped me find info that I discussed before with the Bailey Bill and the Direct Finance Subgroup Committee. So this is just a big list of that. And some other worker co-ops in New York, AMP-led. These are all clickable links. AMP-led is like a new artist platform. It's kind of like Patreon, but it's a co-op. Ward Lumber, that's in upstate New York. Frennis Theater Company, and the Illuminator. So I think that about wraps up my time. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Liz. And thank you for people that are chiming into the chat. There actually is a New York corporations law, but it's as Abby says, it's bulky. It doesn't quite work for the needs of the field right now. So this is the kind of work that we're looking into, and standing on the shoulders of many people who have been really engaged in this work. And I want to shout out Liz, who really dove into the deep end with the New York State work. So, it can be really difficult to jump in midstream into what is already happening and to see, to work alongside people who have been doing this work for years and years and years. And Liz did a really amazing job synthesizing what is going on from her perspective as a worker owner, and really just trying to get to know, like, what is the work that needs to happen? Like, what does this mean for my business? And thank you so much, Liz, for sharing a little bit of your experience. One of the aspects of the fellowship was also creating like internal memos that kind of help us to track what's going on. So say, like Liz is in the first cohort of fellows, and then in the future, we're intending to have more fellows come on, and we're building up this resource library of information about what's going on in different states, so that we can not always recreate the wheel, but we can like build upon knowledge that's already happening. So Liz has put together some great resources that will be useful years into the future. So thank you so much. And I will shout out, I know Michael has been sharing this in the chat, but if you have any questions for any of the fellows, please definitely add those into the chat, and we can get to them in the Q&A section at the end. So thank you so much, Liz. And
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And with that, we'll head over across the country over to California, and have Na Young and Elizabeth talk about what they have done for their fellowship project.
Hi everyone, I'm Na Young from Proof Bakery in Los Angeles. I opened a neighborhood bakery in 2010, And after 10 years of running the business as a single owner LLC company, we converted to a California cooperative corporation in August of 2021. We are a small business of 24 employees with 11 members who are now worker owners.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Barton, and I'm the founding member and general manager of Echo Adventure Cooperative. We offer socially and environmentally sustainable adventures and vacation packages in Yosemite National Park and have recently expanded to offer lodging, gear rentals, and a full service outfitter from our Yosemite base camp in Groveland, California. Echo was founded as a worker cooperative in 2016 with the purpose of prioritizing quality guest experiences, member empowerment, environmental sustainability, and community development over profits.
So first, to share a little bit about California, the lobbying arm of the worker cooperative movement in California is extensive and well organized, which is incredible for us, the California worker owners. Both Echo Adventures and Proof Bakery have benefited from efforts like the California Cooperative Act in 2016. Because there is so much incredible work being done already, Elizabeth and I decided to focus on existing policy and also developing or implementing infrastructure by building relationships with our state's small business development centers and helping connect those SBDCs to future worker owners.
And if you can move it to the next slide. So specifically, as you can see here, we decided to create a network of cooperative resources for California's small business development centers so that they could provide or can provide transition related technical training, executive education, and one-on-one consulting as directed by the landmark 2018 Main Street Employee Ownership Act. We chose this path really for two reasons. First, through Proof Bakery, even though Proof Bakery is a converted cooperative located in a large metropolitan area, and Echo was founded as a cooperative in a rural region of California, neither one of our organizations depended on our local SBDC for guidance. Both of our companies considered our experiences to be more grassroots, and we leaned on cooperative development organizations for the vast majority of our support. Second, for most first-time entrepreneurs, the SBDCs are a primary introductory resource. So tapping into those SBDC networks to provide employee ownership information and training material could potentially introduce many of those first-time entrepreneurs and small business owners to the worker co-op model, which, as you know, is incredible and could really help them in so many ways. Na Young?
Oh. So there's a slide of our project timeline, but before we could go to the SBDCs directly, we needed to do some fact finding with the goal of, for us, just to better understand what the expectations were for the SBDCs for the Main Street Employee Ownership Act. We also had to research current SBDC efforts that were already in place, compiling a list of cooperatives and cooperative network in our target areas, which was Los Angeles and the Sierras, and compile questions for surveys and interviews. Our research connected us to many groups working in California's wide and varied cooperative ecosystem. This ranged from established nonprofits, such as California Center for Cooperative Development, Project Equity. Shout out to Project Equity, who helped convert Proof Bakery, and Sustainable Economies Law Center, who provide education, technical assistance, and research. There are also smaller and grassroots groups growing in cities such as LA Co-op Lab, Cooperation Richmond, and Cooperación Santa Ana, all providing development assistance and supporting support specific to their communities. And most recently, there is the formation of the worker-owned Recovery California Coalition, which arose during the pandemic in 2020, consisting of 8 California and national organizations, which the U.S. Federation of Worker Co-ops is one of. The Work Coalition is an exciting and unified effort in pushing policy and legislation in California. Our fellowship project started one way. We really wanted to create personal narratives and stories to share with the SBDs for using for marketing and outreach campaigns. But we shifted our focus after learning that many of the California SBDCs had little to no cooperative education training or consulting efforts in place. Based on this, we created a toolkit to catalog co-op information that can be used as one kit or divided out based on the audience. We hope the toolkit is a launching pad. I think, is it in the chat or it will be sent? For continuing implementation efforts of worker co-op outreach to the small business development centers. This information will be available for any business development center with the goal of us continuing with the goal of us, Nayang and Elizabeth, continuing and maintaining our own relationship with our local SBDCs in Southern California and the Sierra Nevada.
So as you can imagine, it's been an amazing experience to connect with California's vibrant small business and worker cooperative communities. During our project, we started to identify so many potential future fellowship projects and opportunities for growth in California, specifically for the cooperative movement. So we wanted to share those here in case any of you guys are feeling saucy and want to tackle some stuff. The first one, SBDCs are specifically requesting consultant training, a course or training opportunity specific to the needs of SBDCs and economic development organizations that is widely and readily available throughout California. Along the same vein of implementing existing policy, we heard a need for collaboration with the CA Department of Insurance to streamline the worker cooperative exemption in the worker compensation CASB 189. Now, more generally speaking, we definitely heard and saw a need for increased visibility on just the awesomeness and benefits of worker cooperatives tailored to specific communities through like a mainstream marketing channel or mainstream marketing channels. For example, rural foothills communities like the one I'm in, versus urban centers versus coastal suburbs all have very different needs that can be addressed through the worker cooperative model. We also saw a need for a stronger network between established co-op developers and grassroots organizations in local communities. And potentially, although I think this might be being addressed, a legislative agenda and a centralized archive of legislative efforts. So that's really all we could find. So that just tells you how strong and incredible our cooperative community here is here in California. Anyway, in conclusion, this has been absolutely an amazing opportunity to be a part of the inaugural cohort. I think I can speak for both Nayang and myself in that. And we wanted to give a special thank you to Mo and Michael at the Federation. It's been such a rewarding experience to work with you both and all of the WOSA fellows. This is incredible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Nayang. What an amazing project. You know, they're all amazing in totally different ways, which is part of the magic of this inaugural fellowship. Don't forget to actually check out the toolkit itself. So I think the slides showed just a tiny peek of what the toolkit looks like. So the link to the actual toolkit is in the chat. So I encourage you to take a look at it. And one thing that they very graciously did was this is actually in a format that can be replicated so that we can create the same kind of toolkit for different states, and people are able to customize them. So one of the big things that we talked about during this fellowship is, you know, doing things that can be scaled, right? Things that we can pick up and move it to a different state, and somebody else can take it and run with it. And it is really exciting to start building this library of resources that we can all share. And what a beautiful starting point we have now. So Thank you so much, Nyang and Elizabeth. All right, we're getting down to it. So our second to last presenter is Ben from Fourth River Workers Guild. Ben comes from Pennsylvania, from the other state, the side of my great state. So I was really pleased to have Ben as a part of the fellowship, because, you know, I don't make it to Pittsburgh very often, and I'm always like curious about what's going on the other side of the state. And Ben has been like tuning in to some conversations that have been actually happening over here, and really comes at this work with a level of thoughtfulness that has been a really a great treasure throughout the fellowship. So Ben, take it away.
Well, thank you. That was a very nice, very kind introduction there, Mo. And at some point, maybe we'll meet in the middle in Harrisburg or something like that. But what's up, Co-op Pulse? How are you guys all doing here? So yeah, my name is Ben Lenowitz. I'm with Fourth River Workers Guild in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We do construction, landscaping. You can find us at fourthriver.coop. As our fellowship progressed, I wanted to understand a regional strategy to get support for our co-ops and others like us. And a map of co-op activities and policies seemed like a good place to start. I've been inspired by Zen at Democracy at Work. What's up, Zen? I see you're in on the call here. When he gave a presentation in one of our fellowship classes, Zen and I got to meet up again, and he helped me solidify the idea of using stories to make sense of the possibilities for worker ownership in Pennsylvania. People often tell stories about work, so I wondered if I could map people's idea of a good job in Pennsylvania. Good jobs is a constantly evolving idea and is very complex to understand at a state level. Are there different types of good jobs in Pennsylvania, and does the idea of a good job change over time? Do some policymakers think alike about good jobs? Are there strong polarities between different ideas of a good job? I know that legislators hearing my story is good, but hearing lots of stories is better. Through my research with the fellowship, it was apparent that there is no statewide strategy, and many individual groups are working on great projects and initiatives that could be linked together with a common story. So how do I get lots of short narratives about good jobs that can be organized? A survey is a good way to get lots of responses, but they're often easy to trick. They get bogged down and don't always allow for people to tell stories. So I decided to focus a survey on one narrative question, then have the respondents categorize their own response so that the stories can be mapped. I added a few demographic questions at the end as a way to direct people to useful worker ownership information and to see patterns in the data. The survey, unfortunately, is only a concept. I never got it sent out, but just designing the survey made me think hard about who would have stories, how stories relate to worker ownership policy, and who influences that policy. One of the reasons I chose good jobs is because it's a neutral question. I didn't want to ask people about cooperatives directly because many people do not know about co-ops or may have biases for or against them. But generally, good jobs is a neutral way of asking people a critical question about the value of worker ownership. Okay, so let's go through this quick survey here. I'm going to flip me. There we go. So I want to start the survey off with a meme, a way to connect people. We laugh together. It's a way to come onto the same page. And that's what I'm trying to do when we launch a survey here is say, hey, you know, this is important for us and we're working for the same things that you're working for, which is to have a good job and probably to hold on to that job if it's a good job. Okay, let's go. So the one key question, and it took me a while to sort of figure this out. What's a question that we could ask about quality jobs that we could get a useful response from a legislator, from somebody at work, from a co-op developer, from people all over the place. So this was the question that had to sort of hone in on. So a friend is looking for a quality job and asks you, can you tell me about what makes a company good to work for? And then I entice the surveyor in the text box to tell something a little narrative. Let's try to help them out and not giving a one-word answer. Okay, so we've done that and we responded that. I asked my fiance and she said a place where they give a shit. She works at a hospital, so you guys can relate, I think. So, okay, that was easy. Let's go to the next. And then the surveyor is asked to categorize the story that they just told. And a triangle graph, which is what you see here, is a good survey tool because it makes people think. Oftentimes when we take surveys, it's 1 or 10, yes or no. We just go through it, we get numb to it, we think of what they want us to say and we say that, or we think of the way that we'd rather be and we tell them the way that we'd rather be. In a triangle survey, it's not so easy to do. You have to think and sort of balance it. And you tend to get better responses that way. And with this triangle graph, I looked up some different research about, well, what is it? What do researchers say makes a quality job? And of course it varies, but these are the 3 big categories. So do you have work stability or some type of ownership, which you see at the top, earnings, benefits, financials, that side of things, or is it the type of work, the job fit, where it is? And so drag your dot around and tell us about that story that you just told us about. Okay, that wasn't so hard. Let's go to the next one. And then pretty much the beef of the survey is just that. And I would just ask a few demographic questions. Are you familiar with worker ownership? Maybe we can trigger you over to some information about worker ownership. If you're not, or if you are, we can get you connected with some other folks. Are you in policy making, and where the heck in Pennsylvania are you? Okay, pretty easy. And so in summarizing what we get out of that is that we see that at the top here, many different types of people can take the same survey, and then we can map their responses by the way that they index themselves, not the way that somebody else comes in and categorizes a story that they told, but how they would categorize their own story about a company that's good to work for. And we can see areas where maybe there are groups of people who have similar types of stories or who have divergent types of stories. Maybe there are areas where there are people very close, or there's a group and there are some folks around them, and maybe it makes sense to try to coalesce around one type of story or a way of looking at a quality job as it relates to worker ownership. Or maybe there's a strong polarity and there are groups that are really distant within the state, and it doesn't make much sense to try to pull it together into one story, but instead let's attack it in a 2-story approach. And then you can always, this is mapped by your index and your category, but by clicking on, any of these dots or however the interface would work, you dive in and you can get the robustness of the narrative that goes behind the data that we have mapped. And so that's basically it. It's a big project to sort of send out a survey and actually make sense of it to, enough people. So didn't get it sent out, but thank you everyone for listening, and Mo and all my fellowshippers.
Thank you so much, Ben. I hope you're seeing the props in the chat about your thoughtful approach. I see the questions that are coming in the chat. I'm banking them for our Q&A section. Just a reminder that we'll have a Q&A with the fellows at the end. We have one more presentation left, so add in your questions in the chat, and let's keep it moving. So finally, we have our Massachusetts team. So Karen Ribeiro and Abby Zell. Karen's from PV Squared Solar and Abby's from South Mountain Company. We're two of our biggest and oldest cooperatives in our membership. We were so excited to have them as a part of this cohort. Take it away, Abby and Karen.
Thanks, Mo. Hello, everyone. Just thrilled to be here and to present alongside my fellows. It's been wonderful sharing this experience with them, and always under Mo and Michael's thoughtful, warm leadership. So I'm Abby Zell. I'm a worker owner and communications coordinator at South Mountain Company, located on the island of Martha's Vineyard, 7 miles off the southeast coast of Cape Cod.
And I'm Karen Ribeiro, a worker owner doing commercial and residential design and sales at PV Squared Solar in Greenfield, which is in Western Massachusetts, where it's been said that we have the most concentration of cooperatives in the state. Mo's going to post a timeline that we created of our project, which is a bit easier to navigate if you click on that than the timeline here, which illustrates many of the moving parts of our project. So we were all invited, all of our fellows were invited to this fellowship with a clear timeline of outlining our engagement for this past 6 months. Our mission was to get to know the policy community better and to leverage our stories as worker owners to motivate action on our collective behalf. Our capstone project was to host an hour-long webinar, which we called a legislative tour, with 2 of the biggest worker ownership champions in Massachusetts, Representative Paul Mark and Senator Julian Sear, who just so happens to be both of our respective representatives, which made it wonderful. So organizing this event took 3 months and involved a lot of stakeholders, including, but not limited to, the following. The coalition, this here is the policy platform for the Coalition for Worker Ownership and Power, called Co-op, specifically their legislative working group, which I've decided to stay part of because it's just so dynamic, and the Center for Economic Democracy, which is staffing much of Co-op's work. Members also supported members also from Wellspring, who helped out, next slide, please, with the awesome collateral material, our invitation, and other translated materials, which was so helpful. And the ICA group, which administers the Massachusetts Center for Employee Ownership. They helped with outreach. We got this, the next slide is our press release. They helped, and then of course we had Representative Paul Mark. He showed up really big, and Senator Sear, his team, especially Legislative Director Jeff Soares, helped get the word out on Beacon Hill, emailing directly to legislators, which was super helpful. I highly recommend, you know, I don't know if every other state has this, these internal newsletters, but we just learned about that, and it was really wonderful to know that they could send our invitation out directly a couple of days before the event. And then we had our event. It was an hour-long legislative tour, as Abby said, and the link is in this. I believe you can access it through the this timeline, I hope, but if not, we'll post it in the chat.
It's also at the end of the presentation.
Okay, great. So anyway, we had the slide deck that was run by one of Abby's colleagues, which made it super, super wonderful, very smooth with all of the people presenting. It was a lifesaver. And then we did a lovely debrief so that we could celebrate and reflect on what went well, capture any things we might have done differently. And to see the process in more detail, we've got the recording and other links in our deliverables. Now back to Abby.
Thanks, Karen. That timeline is so awesome. Karen really took the lead on creating it. And I think everyone's going to be borrowing that software for their future projects. And it really just does a good job of illustrating how collaborative our experience was. We learned so much from all of that inter-organizational pollination. It took a ton of time to finesse the program and produce our event. If you don't know already, Zoom presentations are no joke. Props to the people running this one. But all that hard work really paid off. On the day of, both we and the legislators spent the majority of our hour together sharing personal narratives about worker ownership's role in and effect on our lives. And once we had that audience invested, Dara Nussbaum Vasquez of the ICA group and Alex Papali of the Center for Economic Development outlined clear and concise actions that audience members could take to support democratic workplaces. We had great attendance, mostly comprised of legislators from key committees and the co-ops operating in their districts. We received a ton of positive feedback and even got some press coverage. Overall, we're very proud of what we were able to accomplish part-time over just a few months, especially considering we've never worked together before. And we're also just exceedingly grateful for the Federation for this opportunity to stretch, and we're leaving this experience feeling energized heading into the next chapter of our advocacy. So thanks to all.
Thank you so much, Abby and Karen. I will say, so I was a part of the event, and I was so energized to see not just our folks there, right? There were so many people that attended, and I think, as I mentioned, Representative Paul Mark was like so stoked and such a good champion and representative for cooperatives. And it's really great to see electeds stepping up to really support the people who have supported them along the way. So it really reminded me of the people power that we have when, in a state like Massachusetts, which has one of the longest histories of a worker co-op organizing, all of that matters, all that history matters, continuing to build relationships, continuing to build champions. It's all really important. So thank you so much to everyone. And that is the end of our presentations. Thank you so much to all of the fellows. It's been such an amazing journey, which is not yet over. The main part of the fellowship is over, and I'm actually gonna bring Rachel Stratman up to talk a little bit about, what are we going to do past the fellowship, and some little work that we're doing to kind of wrap up the experience and gain some more insight about our whole process. So Rachel, do you want to unmute and share?
Great, thank you, Mo. And wow, thank you to all the fellows for your presentations. I was so grateful to join all of you guys the last 5 months and learn from and alongside all of you. I'm currently a public policy graduate student at UC Berkeley, working with Mo and the Federation on a toolkit to further this work for state level advocacy. I was really excited about this opportunity, not only because of my belief in worker ownership, but specifically because Mo and the Federation continue this policy and advocacy work alongside their members, ensuring the work is being driven. They're driving the needs and focus of this work. So programs like this fellowship allow everyone resources and skills to make this work more accessible, but also the relationships and support necessary to stay focused and motivated. So Our hope for the toolkit following the fellowship is to stand as both an educational tool on how state level government is structured, the tools and the templates, the how-tos for advocacy work, similar to some of the great things we've seen today, and policy recommendations for state level legislation support, recommendations to increase the capital, technical support and access, ecosystems to sustain the work, not only to grow more cooperatives, but to grow the connections in general between cooperatives. So we're really excited, and I'm continuing to interview cooperatives as we build this toolkit. So I'm going to drop my email in the chat, and if anyone would be interested in talking to me or have questions, I'd really love to hear from you, because the members are so important in what we're going to continue to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel. The stars really aligned to bring Rachel aboard to help wrap us up, to have Michael Brennan. Shout out to Michael, who is very active in the chat and behind the scenes right now, but has been a very integral part of this whole process, including filling in for me in the beginning of this process when I gave birth to my first child and was unable to be part of our first session or two. But everyone really rolled with the punches really, really well. And I'll say, if for our first cohort, this is such an impressive group of people. I have been surprised. I have been delighted by each and every person that has been a part of the fellowship. I'm very sad to see it end, but what's next is we're gonna keep going. We've gotten some great responses. I'm sure you can tell by the chat that these fellows really like each other and are interested in staying in contact and are all very supportive of each other. That has been really great to see, because I think at the end of the day, if we walk away from this and there are 8 people that have built relationship that are kind of dotted across the country and are able to stay in contact and share their experiences, that's a huge win, huge win. So thank you to all the fellows. We do have time for just a few questions. So if there's a last any last questions that you have been lingering in your head, please do share that in the chat. But I'm gonna ask all the fellows, just be ready. I have one question to kick us off is, you're the first cohort of fellows. And one of the things that we wanted to prove is that anyone can step into this work, right? It's important as a business owner, as a person who is invested in democracy, to be engaged. And it's not. I know there can be challenges, but what advice would you give to a worker owner who might be interested in engaging in advocacy work, but might be tentative about what that might entail? So I will open that up to any of the fellows who might want to unmute and share a little bit about any advice that they would want to share.
Well, I'll just dive in because everybody's being all shy. I would just say absolutely go for it. I mean, I felt kind of overwhelmed the whole time. And then all of a sudden it dawned on me that any work is good work, and that any effort in this cooperative space is going to just forward our movement and give equitable and sustainable jobs to people who wouldn't have had them otherwise. So do it. You're here for a reason. Just take complete advantage of all of these opportunities. And these guys are so incredible. Mo and Michael have really just held our hands through the whole thing, and that's not going to change.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Anybody else want to chime in?
I will. I think you're just entering a group of people who just want to lift everyone up, and it's just like a warm blanket. And I just enjoyed coming to these monthly meetings and additional ones as well for California. And it was just people who were or or just connecting on a very, very basic level. And so that made it a little bit easier for me. I'm not sort of having a learning curve of understanding California. So it's a very comforting group of people, I found.
Cool. Anyone else want to share what advice you would give to worker owners who are interested but tentative about getting involved in advocacy work?
I would just add that if you're, on the brink and not feeling empowered there, that just once you jump in, it's like such an empowering experience, not only because of the support system that USFWC and your fellow fellows provide, but also the cooperative ecosystems that you plug into. And I just am leaving this experience feeling really confident in the power of my story and my unique point of leverage to create change, because I am boots on the ground, and that's really who these stakeholders and legislators want to hear from.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll jump in and say, if you're hesitant, pick up the phone or fill out one of your legislators, whether it's local or state or wherever, and to fill out one of their contact forms and just say, hey, and ask them a question that's on your mind. And you don't have to make a huge impact, but just sort of going through that and talking to them on the phone for 3 minutes or whatever they're willing to give you, gives you that sense of, oh, okay, that was that. And and you'll be prepared to do it again, and it'll form questions in your mind. And little steps is the way to go. Just break the ice.
That's right, Ben.
I'll say one last thing. Well, the most important thing I ever learned about doing policy work and like trying to reach out to elected officials is that they work for us. And like when you realize that, and you're like, hey, tell me what you know about worker cooperatives, they have to tell you. And if they don't know anything, then hey, well, let me introduce you. So that might be a good first step for some of us.
I love and want to echo the advice that all the other fellows who have responded have shared about just like jumping in, and even if you're hesitating, sort of just trying to put yourself in the space. I think as Mo said it, like putting yourself in the deep end of policy and advocacy work related to it. I think getting connected with other cooperative co-owners in your area to team up to do the work is a huge thing, because I think like I'm standing in awe of like Liz and Ben who were doing their projects alone, because I don't think I could have even gotten through this fellowship without my partner Indira. And so I think just trying to connect with your community members who are also worker owners of their own cooperatives, or even other members of your cooperative, so that you can actually move things forward in this work. And then the other thing I would say is just every little bit counts. So even if you can't commit to a 6-month fellowship, right? Like show up to events, and like Ben said, reach out to your congressional representatives. Whatever little bit you contribute is really important.
What a great note to end the webinar on. Thank you so much to everyone. With that, I'll pull up our last slide. This is just the beginning. I feel so proud of all of the fellows and of this experience that we built together. All of this work, this is not, Federation staff doing policy and advocacy work. This is the membership of our grassroots membership organization pulling together and learning from each other and pushing this work forward together. So thank you so much. Before I get teary-eyed, I will wrap this up. Just a couple of announcements. We have a couple webinars coming up. We have a tax prep webinar. Actually, you know what? I think that might be postponed due to COVID reasons, but we have a policy and advocacy member call. If you are a member and you haven't been involved, I encourage you to reach out to policy@usworker.coop to get involved. We have a startup webinar. If you know someone that's interested in starting a co-op, That's going to be on March 4th. Join that email list to learn about our policy and advocacy efforts. And make sure you download the brand spanking new Worker Co-op State of the Sector. There's this great map here. It just shows the latest data about worker co-ops in the United States. And download it. There's tons of great little tidbits about co-ops in there. And get to know our sector a little bit better. I want to thank you all again for lending us your time and your energy and your great chat thoughts here to the Federation and to the fellows to learn about what they're doing. If you found this experience helpful, if you want to support future fellowships, I encourage you to donate to the Federation. Like I said at the beginning, all your donations go to help move this work forward, to make sure that we have interpretation so that our content is accessible to everyone who wants it, and to really just support and advance worker co-ops in our country. So thank you so much to everyone. It was a delight to see you all. And if you attended this webinar and you registered, you will get the recording of this. And it will also be posted on the Federation's website by next week. And that's it for tonight. Thank you so much to everyone. And we will see you at the next Worker Co-op Policy Pulse, which will be in a few months. Stay tuned at usworker.coop. Thank you all so much.